Level up with Dr. Leyland. Step into the future, the world is waiting now. Dreams are in the making, we'll show you how. From the books to the screen, from the stage to the stars. Level up your game, let's raise the bar. Innovation, inspiration, it's in our DNA. Breaking through the limits, we're paving the way. Level up, reach the sky, take the lead, don't be shy. Your story's worth it, your light will shine. At Level Up Academy, it's your time. Oh, it's your time. At Level Up Academy, we rise and climb. Empowered in your passion, your voice will be heard. Building a legacy with every word. From podcasts to pages, from business to art. Level Up's the place where it all can start. With heart and with vision, we're chasing every goal. Together we'll ignite the fire in your soul. Level up, reach the sky, take the lead, don't be shy. Your story's worth it, your light will shine. At Level Up Academy, it's your time. Oh, it's your time. At Level Up Academy, we rise and climb. Oh, we're trailblazing, breaking through the mold. Dreams are alive, let your story unfold. With courage and pride, we'll take the fight. At Level Up, we own the night. Level up, reach the sky, take the lead, don't be shy. Your story's worth it, your light will shine. At Level Up Academy, it's your time. Oh, it's your time. At Level Up Academy, we rise and climb. So let's level up and never look back. On the road to greatness, we're on the right track. Together we'll soar, together we'll thrive. At Level Up Academy, we're alive.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you guys are doing amazing things today. Happy Wednesday. This is Dr. Leland, your host. And of course, my co host, Sister Susanna Dawn. Today is a different, I promised her not to have frameworks. I'm really going to try my hardest not to have a framework because you know me, I'm a queen of framework now. Anyhow, I wanted to talk about this in terms of relationships because, I've talked to a lot of people lately in terms of friends, new friends, bunny worlds, all that. And yeah, you're probably thinking, CJ, what is that? Something I'm creating. I'm testing, guys. You'll see the book maybe next year. So Sana's gonna help me write the bunny world of communications. Level it up. Level 2, level 1. Anyhow, every relationship rises or falls on communication, whether it's personal or professional. It's not the lack of love that ends most partnerships, okay? But it's the absence of honest, healthy dialogue. We live in a world where people talk more than ever. Text, DMs, voice notes, video notes. But what are we truly connecting? Are we just exchanging noise? Well, today on Unmute by Design, we're actually breaking down the reality of hey, how do we do healthy communication in a relationship? What does it look like? This isn't about perfect speeches or always knowing the right words. It's about building clarity, connection, and trust through the way we speak and listen. We'll dive into how to speak clearly without guilt or blame, or using the I statements. I posted it on LinkedIn, right? I statements actually express the needs without tearing someone down. And then the difference between listening just to respond versus listening to truly connect. How do we do that? The simple shifts that turn conflict into opportunities of understanding. Why open? Well, consistent communication is the foundation of trust in every relationship, friendship, business partnership, whether it's romantic, family, whatever, professional, right? At its core, communication isn't just a skill, it's the lifeline of every relationship. And when you learn to unmute your voice with clarity and compassion, you don't just strengthen your words, you actually strengthen your bonds with that person. I know my sister and I are a really good case study in terms of communication. Sister listens a lot, but also learns a lot. And I also listen and learn. Actually, she listens more than I do, I think. That's for sure. For sure. And a dialogue is back and forth, right? Literally about that. So we're going to dive into, the first thing that we're going to talk about today really is how to speak clearly without guilt or blame. There is a framework on it, obviously, because that's how I get my stuff, and I'm sure you've heard of it, right? But we're gonna simplify everything, right? A smart way to drop the guilt trip is to use the I statement versus the you blame, and we're gonna dive into it. But first thing is first. We are going to be having our anthology soon. I'm just taking a pause on it, guys. I'm just having a lot of stuff happening. But we are going to be going back at it. Let me go ahead and put my sponsorship because I haven't done this in a while, but here it is.
Now, our first sponsor here is Susanna Dawn. She's not just a writer, she's a truth alchemist, a sought-after editor, ghostwriter, and speaker. Susanna helps heart-driven leaders, creatives, and change makers move beyond the boxes society tries to shove them into. Her work is rooted in radical authenticity, emotional clarity, and storytelling that doesn't just sound good, it feels like you. If you got a story that needs to be told, but the words are tangled, or if you tried hiding behind polished personas and crave a voice that's truly yours, well, Susanna will help you write, speak, and show up with raw and powerful, real presence. She doesn't just edit your words, she helps you reclaim your narrative. This isn't copy editing, guys. This is soul alignment. Now, let me talk to you about my brother from another Mr. Mike Asherbrenner. He is a catalyst for clarity in a world full of noise, whether he's speaking, mentoring, or guiding others through transformative conversations. Mike brings a steady mix of wisdom, grounded presence, and no-nonsense truth-telling that helps people reconnect with their purpose and rise above the chaos. He is known for his ability to see what others miss. Mike helps you cut through limiting beliefs, outdated narratives, and internal roadblocks so you can lead, live, and love from a place of deep alignment. If you're ready to break cycles, reclaim your confidence, and show up fully in every room you enter, well, Mike is the guide who will walk with you, not ahead of you. He doesn't just hype you up, he holds you up. Scan that QR code. Now let's talk about Bas Porter. He's not here to play small, and neither are you. As a global transformational speaker, mentor, and spiritual guide, Bas brings you unapologetic truth, soul-level strategy, and decades of lived experience to the table. He's walked through darkness, faced down the noise of trauma and self-doubt, and came out not just stronger, but unstoppable. When you work with Bas, you're not getting surface level motivation. You're stepping into a high frequency container built for radical change. He helps visionaries, leaders, and purpose driven individuals break free from fear, rewrite their inner blueprint, and embody the greatness they were born for. If you're tired of excuses, ready to shift timeliness, and done with playing with safe, Bas is your catalyst. Scan that QR code. He also offers community support, right? For a million dreams. So once you go through his transformative courses or masterclass, you're going to have that community support. Join now. Scan that QR code. What are you waiting for? Here's one of my sponsors as well, Bella Grace. What an amazing elixir. If you are wanting to do something for your inside, your body, you feel like your joint is inflamed, or you're having those aches and pains, or you're looking so ragged and fatigued all the time, this elixir is your fountain of youth. Scan that QR code and go ahead and take us for a spin for 30 days. I know I have, and I've seen such a big difference. Now, if you are looking to learn, right, to be on the boots on the ground type about social media and the power of social media and the tips and tricks that you will never find anywhere else because nobody is telling you, they're gatekeeping this information. Here is a platform called Influencing You. I am there on Fridays, 10 a.m. PST. Join me for an exclusive freebies on there every Friday. Bye. See you soon. Scan that QR code. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It is that time again. Third year in a row. 50 inspirational connections. Now it's not just LinkedIn, it is in all your social media. Are you ready? Scan that QR code and go ahead and nominate yourself or nominate someone else who rocked your life, right? Somebody. This isn't just another hashtag, it's a movement. 50 inspirational connections is where authentic leadership, powerful storytelling, and global impact collide. We're shining a spotlight on the trailblazers, hope dealers, change agents, and everyday heroes who are using social media to build up communities, break the cycle, and amplify with purpose. Join this initiative. You're not just getting featured, you're aligning yourself with a legacy of visibility, credibility, and meaningful connection. Whether you're a thought leader, an entrepreneur, or quiet disruptor with a loud heart, this is your moment to be seen, to be heard, and celebrated across platforms that reach over 150 countries in 6 continents. Because influence isn't about numbers, it's about impact. And together, we're rewriting what leadership looks like online. DM me for more information. In the meantime, scan that QR code to apply.
All right, we are done with our sponsors. Guys, I actually have a different link. Long story short, there's a link that I just put on the comment section for 50 inspirational connections. I just keep having it up because I've been lagging on my end. It's going to happen this year, okay? It is before the end. I got 16 weeks. I can do this. Believe and trust. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Where is my co-host? Oh my gosh. Oh, sister, how are
Wednesday.
you doing?
I'm doing good. It was one heck of a weekend and a very long Monday and Tuesday with grading, but and then yesterday's show is like, wow. I think that's all I can say right now. It's like you and me and where that conversation went. Wow.
There's a plan ahead of that, so let's see what
there's a plan ahead, and it led right into this one. So I was like, how did that happen?
It happens with us, Welcome, everybody. We have Shohidul Islam. How are you? I forgot what country you're from. Please tell me. Any, bro, it's been a hot minute. I miss you. I know MIA because I have some personal things I have to do, like moving. Okay, so I've been busy moving. Life changes. So welcome, Any. Thank you so much. I need to go in one of your shows for sure. Victor, I love you, brother. We need to chat. You still need to be here. I haven't seen you here. We need to chat ASAP. Good morning. Good morning. And he says learning to communicate is key to staying calm in situations when emotions can hijack us. That is so true. Good morning, everybody. So welcome. So Sister Danielle, good morning. This is the link, guys, to apply. Just copy it on your URL and it will be there. So today we're going to talk about communications, healthy communications in relationship. And really, the first one I want to talk about is how to speak clearly without guilt or blame, right? not necessarily you saying I'm guilty of something, but it's just more of like, so you don't have a blame game, right? A smart way to actually drop the guilt is to use I statements. I'm sure you've heard of it, sister. Like, instead of you never listen, maybe you can say, I feel unheard when I'm interrupted, right? You you keep the emotions real and the other person on defensive because they're talking about themselves. How can you get mad if they're talking about themselves? Right? There's no defense needed. There's no wall put in. There's no shutdown. In fact, you actually feel bad for the other person that you're not listening to them, right? So you want that emotional reaction rather than the other way around. What are some of your thoughts of that?
Oh, I definitely love that, because the ability um, to shift it. You is like sticking your finger in their chest all the time. I knew it was
Mike
happening.
is here.
Yeah, yeah. I saw that, and it's like, well, I know what's next. But yeah, when you keep saying you, it's like putting a finger in their chest, and everything is wrong. Uh, and at the same time, when it comes to those eyes, it's finding that way, like you said, I feel unheard. That's a simple and safe statement. Sometimes I hear some people, they go into that I statement and they change the whole conversation to being about them, and that ruins the communication right there. Because I've been in situations where someone's like, so what are you thinking, or how do you feel? And I get one sentence out, and the next thing I know, they've shifted everything back to them. I don't get to say how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, or anything. I get that initial sentence, and before I can really complete anything, the whole conversation is shifted back to them. So the other thing about those I statements is just to make sure that you keep it focused on the conversation, instead of making it sound like a blame game.
Yeah. So even when Mike is here, so funny. He's like, "Good afternoon, NYC time in the house." No, PST.
No. Well, he hasn't made a comment yet either. That surprises me. I
Right.
expected it by now.
With the hat. So anyway, we're gonna actually. This is not my theory. This is from the Gottman's method. This is more of like a couples therapy that I was actually looking at, developed by Dr. John Gottman and Dr. Julie Schwartz Gottman. I think they're couple. And in this house theory, they're basically saying, hey, um you have the house. Think of the house like this. And then there's like 8 different things that they look at, like build the love maps and share funness and admiration, and turn towards each other, not away from each other, the positive perspective rather than always looking at the negative. Manage your conflict, make life dreams come true. Maybe if you have a small goal to travel, do that, and then create those shared meanings together, right? And so I basically said, okay, well, we're going to talk about how does Gutman help us in not just couples therapy, but more of sound relationship, right? How do you promote direct, non-judgmental communication so that if there's an argument, you can disarm it and deepen your intimacy, right? And intimacy, people always think it's like a love relationship. Not necessarily. Because intimacy for us, when it comes to friendship, is trust and commitment to each other as good friends, right? And I love that we have giggle moments, we have crying moments, we have happy moments, we have all those moments and we share it. And every morning I call you to communicate my bunny worlds communication. I'm collecting bunnies, guys. I'm collecting bunnies. They're soft and cuddly. They make me happy in the morning. And I'm also testing a theory, and I learned a lot about myself collecting bunnies lately. I learned that my words are so powerful, but I actually want to stretch my imagination here. People, I was telling Susanna, people are attracted to beautiful people, right? When you're beautiful, people are attracted to you. And most of the time when you're beautiful, you get labeled as ditzy or shallow, right? Because you're like so into yourself. But then when they get to really learn about you a little bit more, they're so impressed. And you're just trying to be by, yourself. But once you build that impression on someone's thoughts, they build their own biases and they build their own reality in their head, right? And so when they do that, you can feel it. And if you're intuitive enough and you pay attention to the nuances enough, you can level up the way you communicate to somebody and push them. What do you think, sister? I'm gonna stop right there before I do anything else.
Yeah, I'm looking at you going, oh, where's she going? The most important thing, what I love about it is sometimes we know our who we are, we know our authentic self, but it's been hidden for so long that we need these opportunities to really let it back out, into the world, to get that understanding of how we really want to interact with other people. Because I mean, you got a world that will tell us ways that we're supposed to interact, and too often it's superficial, and for some of us, superficial doesn't work. I'm one that I won't last in a superficial conversation because it's kind of meaningless. There's nothing there. There's no connection. It almost feels like there's no purpose. But once you have, when you're able to go a little bit deeper, when you're able to talk more about who you are, what you're interested, what are your likes, and to share that with somebody else so that you're getting deeper, that's another way of being intimate, but it's another way of also understanding yourself as well as getting to understand somebody else.
Hi, David. How are you? Thank you. So, back to communication. Okay, so I listed the you blame statements, right? Defensive, accusatory. When you say you never listen, you're always late, you make me feel stupid, you don't care about me, you always mess things up, you never help around the house, you're selfish. That's a blame game, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's reframe those. What would you say for some of these things? So I'm going to put them down here, okay? So these are some of the things that you should be saying. I said you right now, right? So I say, hey, I feel unheard when I don't get to finish my thoughts. I feel stressed when we're running late because being on time matters to me. I
Right.
feel hurt when my ideas are dismissed. I need reassurance sometimes to feel secure in our relationship. I get overwhelmed when the housework piles up, and I'd appreciate if you'd help. I feel disconnected when we don't spend time together. What are some of those feelings and differences you think that would do to you? What do you think, sister?
Well, I'm listening to what you're saying and thinking about some of the conversations I've had in the past, and quite frankly, it's amazing how at this point in time, at this point in life, and as I'm listening to this, it's like I can look back at my own past and go, there's better ways to say things, because it's like me, I'm one who didn't like being late. There are certain places that I did not want to walk into late. And yet having a spouse that it didn't seem to matter. They didn't care. And all I could say was, I don't like to be late. But being able to say I get hurt every time we're late and I have to walk into someplace and I just feel so uncomfortable is a much better way of saying it. And so really anybody that's like at the beginning of relationships, and especially the younger crowd, this is stuff to be thinking about. This is stuff to be thinking about, different ways to say it, because if you want to have one of those long-term relationships, these are the things that should be part of what you are and what you're looking for in somebody else.
What you're looking for, huh? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna move on to number 2. What the heck? We're talking about Gottman's method sound relationship theory, but we're going to be moving on to the second one that we talked about in terms of communications. And literally is about listening to respond versus listening to connect, right? This is from Stephen Covey, by the way. He said, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Think about that. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Right? When we listen to respond, we're already plotting what's the next line. Right? So that's lost connection city versus listening to understand means full presence. I do this too, by the way. Okay? That's why I can talk about it, because I do it. There are definitely have the framework, but I'm not going to go through too much of that. But it's a 3-step connect loop. What you got to do is you need to pause, right? Don't think about your comeback. Let the words fill it out, and then reflect. Mirror back what I'm hearing is, or what does that mean for you, right? When I say I love you, what does that mean for you, right? Confirm. Did I understand you correctly? Those 3 loops, pause, reflect, and confirm, provides empathic listening. Turning your emotional undertones builds that depth and trust, not just in the surface level replies, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Listening to respond versus listening to connect.
It's so easy to be focused on that respond, because too often we feel like we have to respond to everything. And being able, especially with ADHD, sometimes that will kind of drive more of a focus to respond, because you're trying to remember what the heck they're even saying, because there are those times that no matter how much you're paying attention, the minute they stop talking, it's like, what did you just say? Because it's like it's gone. So being able to listen and just soak it in before responding is also going to mean, for some people, it's going to slow down the conversation a little bit. So you got to be willing to have the conversation slowed down, because for some of us, we need that moment to think. And you can watch, you see it on TV, you see it in movies. The banter that happens, it's like boom, 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 and it's like all making sense, and everybody's on top. And some of us can't do that. And it's like that kind of a banter. If I try to get into one of those kind of conversations, it can become easy to get tripped up. Because and there's people that they do it on purpose. So it really is important to listen, to connect. Because some people, it's like, if you listen to connect, you'll realize you don't have to respond. You just listen. You don't have to say anything. And if they kind of stop and you don't say anything for a couple of seconds, they might just continue. And it's because they need to. They don't need the response. Some people, it's like some of us, we don't need response all the time. We just need understanding, conversation, and something that's not just superficial.
I agree. I think I would have to ask the audience, what are your habits and strategies when listening to others? Um, because I do have a bad habit of listening to respond, right? And I try to slow down my brain. I try to slow down my brain a little bit, because once I latch on to certain words, I keep thinking about certain things to respond. So I need to be present more in conversations, especially if you're building new friendships, new relationships, bunny worlds, just saying. I think that when it comes to partnership, business partnership, or relationships, right? When you pause for a minute, you basically stopping your brain to let the worlds land within your brain before you kind of do that, and then reflect, like, what is she saying, or clarify. I think sometimes when you clarify, people think you're not listening because you're clarifying, so that's another judgment on the other party. But really, it's more of a reflecting, right? And then confirm, like, do you mean to say this? Like, why would you say that, right? If someone tells me I love you and they really don't know who I am, like, do you love me or do you love parts of me, right? Like, is that what? Okay, so how do you define love, really? Because some people take forever to love, and I've been told, well, it's called love at first sight, CJ. I was like, that's infatuation. That's not really love, right? Because love is dangerous, very dangerous. You get into a situation when you love someone so bad that you're willing to give up anything for that person, even if it hurts you. And until you say enough is enough and I'm not doing this crap anymore, right? But love is dangerous, so you got to be careful. And I think I'm jaded definitely on love sometimes, because when you love someone so bad and they hurt you, you're like, I don't know if I can find really that. But I think that you have to have your own journey of loving yourself first, so that you can have room to love others, right? And when you love others, you need to make sure that you love yourself enough that you will never go back to you know having that communication of responding rather than listening to connect. And I think a lot of people, when you get frustrated, you respond. Who the heck are you to do this to me? Like that attitude, right? And I know I have that attitude too. But I think in the moment, empathic listening is what I'm trying to um practice, because sometimes you can say the right word, sister, but it has an undertone, like, do you really like it? Or do you really like that food? Really? Right? Like, you're questioning that. So, what are some of your thoughts on that?
It's yeah. I mean, words play an impact, and I do find it interesting when somebody to see people who jump up and it's like are saying that they love you when they haven't met. I mean, there hasn't even been a meeting. It's just it's all words at that point. So it's you want to hear it, and you want to be able to. Sometimes you've got to be able to hear that voice. You've got to be able to hear, especially for some of us who can kind of hear more than the words when somebody speaks. You can hear if there's something deeper to the words, and what the meanings. Sometimes the meanings of the words come across through the way that they're spoken. And there's a difference between reading the words and hearing them spoken. Because when we read the words, we're going to read them in a way that we think it. until we've heard somebody speak, and then we'll start to hear it in their voice, and we'll start to understand how they are saying those words. You're
I'm trying not to laugh. I'm muting because I hear like feedback, so that's why I'm muting so I can speak clearly. But you're right. I think throughout my life, I definitely have been told, and I'm grateful for it. Okay, I'm not complaining. Um, that people love me, but because I have abandonment issues, definitely I crave love, but I also am careful of superficial love. I think people love me for what I can do for them, not because they love me as a person. I think to love someone, whether you're friends or partners, not in a romantic way, is to accept their flaws. And God knows I'm perfectly imperfect, right? And I can be a little shit too. And I can really be moody sometimes, right? And but my heart is in the right place. And so if you love somebody only in their good times, and I think a lot of partnership, like business partnership, relationships, friendships, they end because there's always that condition. I love you only if, right? I love you only if. Um and that's the wrong kind of love, whether it's friendship, partnership, or anything. So how do you build trust even if like someone really strongly? I would rather say you like me strongly than love me, because you don't really know me that well, right? But also, our definition of love is not, people always say that love is universal. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Yes, love is universal to some extent. But to love me means to give up some part of you, and I give up some part of me as a friend, as a lover, as a wife, as a, whatever, right? As a mom, like I love my kids differently than, romantically, right? So how do we have, that simple shifts that turn conflict into connection? Because really, that when you're getting to know somebody, you're going to get to know their quirks. Yes, I'm bratty. I'm an only child. Hello. People sometimes tell me I have such a high energy, and that is a turnoff because it's like, it's too much. I'm not going to lower my energy for you. That means you're not for me, right? I'm not going to try to fit in myself on boxes so you can like me. I love me enough that I don't need anybody in my box. I have enough people that I can call. Mike can listen to my nonsense. I call my sister at 6 to wake her up, even though she's already awake and I just woke up late. You know, um, I have enough people in my circle. I don't need a huge amount of people to give me that love that I need. But at the same time, it's like, if you are going to be part of my life, you need to be comfortable with me, and I don't hide me. Like, yes, I can be ready. Yes, could have an attitude, but I'm the loving, caring person. I am. And I don't have to convince you. You're going to see that, but you have to get to know that a little bit. Now, going back to shifting, those communications, the framework from Gutman, soften startup, right? Repair attempts. Basically, him and Schwartz were doing a research to say, hey, research shows that couples who start discussions gently, not with blame, not with criticism or contempt, use repair attempts like humor or empathy to avoid that escalation. I mean, I can remember all my arguments is usually from the blame and criticism and contempt, all those three, right? And well, okay, first of all, I don't really get some of the jokes anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can't really use humor. So just empathy, okay? And then relational dialects. Relationships thrive on navigating tensions, like autonomy versus closeness. I like my freedom. I do not like micromanagement, right? So if you're in a relationship with me, I do not, or business partnership, don't freaking check in every 2 seconds. I hate that. I feel overwhelmed. Like, just go away. Even work knows better, right? And openness versus privacy. There are things that are private in my thought, but I'm an open book most of the time. And there are things that are open to the public that if you want to ask, right? Communication is really the tool you use to manage those evolving tensions. It shouldn't be a source of conflict, but most of the time our words do hurt and offend, right? When I tell you, sister, I love you, you feel good. Sister, I hate you, you're like, oh, what the heck did I do? Right? It's that emotions. What are your thoughts on that, sister? I'm gonna unmute you.
It's yeah. The emotions are always flowing, and I've dealt with it too much in my own life. Of in my case, the arguments don't really happen because I just shut down. And that's the other thing. If I start feeling attacked, I just shut down and I'm not going there. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have a battle of wits or whatever. Is like just because whatever I say is just going to make things worse no matter what. So why should I open my mouth? I don't want to go there. And I kind of want to go back to something else that you said too, because you talk about love, and it feels like a lot of people just throw that word around. I'm wondering how many of them really understand it, because I'll go back to, I mean, if you go back to the second great commandment, love your neighbor as yourself, it's like, yeah, I definitely, even those that I don't like or I know I need to keep distance from, I will still love them. But that's not the same as saying I love you. It's like that's God's love. That's different than we still need to keep distance. We still need a lot of space. And I've got a lot of people in my life. It's like I need a lot of space between me and them. I will love them, but I can't be around them. And that's really what I want to find is being able to have that person that you can basically look at them and say, I love you, and you mean it. You know it. You feel the same way.
Yeah. I love the distance thing. Well, like I can love somebody from afar, and there's also difference between loving someone and being in love with someone. And you want to do that both alignment, right? We love you, Mike. He said it's the love yourself part I struggle with for decades. So when we love outside, meaning like we don't love ourselves as much as we love our kids, our wife, our husbands, right? Our partners, our friends, we're basically pouring from an empty cup. And when you are pouring from an empty cup, the love is so low. The energy is so low. It's so depleted. That's why people says, what are your hobbies? What are all of these things? If you put it together, it's called the backpack of life that I'm always giving my kids a lecture on, is literally think about what makes you happy, because in those moments when you feel unloved, when you feel defeated, when you feel like you're just not, there's nothing you could pour to other people, and you tried, like Mike is a community builder, right? And so sometimes communities are not perfect, and sometimes people within your community argue or do some nonsense, and you have to share those loves to however many people that you have in your community. And it's hard to love everybody when everybody's fighting, but you have to understand that you have to love yourself enough and be strong enough about your non-negotiables and have your boundaries on what you do and do not tolerate. And I think more often we follow the society's toleration of, guide of toleration, or SOP, standard operating procedure of how to act or whatnot. And I find myself that sometimes the standard operating procedure is just that, words. But when it comes to actions, they're so hollow, right? Like how many times you report somebody on LinkedIn because they offend you and they said, we're here to have peace and no offense, but they'll tell you saying, oh, they didn't really do anything wrong, right? So that words that they have, the guidelines, they're hollow. They're really not meant for anything. So it's really annoying that you keep doing that. Or, you get stalk online, and I'm okay with that because you're gonna go on a loop because I can just hit the block button. But anyway, um, and you'll have people who don't like you. Nothing that you do is good enough for them. There are people who don't like you because of jealousy. There are people who don't like you because they heard something from someone about you. That's okay too. You gotta, if you're strong enough within yourself, you won't need all of these things, right? So basically, what he's saying is, you know, make sure you know that, because autonomy, you talk about autonomy like being independent and I need this space. But if you talk about it to yourself and you don't actually create that boundary to somebody else who's bothering you, then it's no good, right? Sometimes we expect too much from people without letting them know what your expectations are. And then when you make a mistake, you're like, what do you mean you didn't know? Well, you didn't tell me. I'm not a freaking magician or a telepathic person that I can know every, thoughts that you have. That's dangerous. I don't want to think, I don't want to hear what you're thinking, actually. I would not want to hear anybody's thoughts like that. Okay. I already have enough on my thoughts in my brain. But literally, right? Relational dialects, meaning instead of always managing this evolving tensions to, I'm gonna defend me, I'm the badass person, da 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 da. Okay, maybe you need to eat humble pie a little bit. Stay grounded, right? It's okay to lose. It's okay because you're learning more on that. Always winning on a conversation is not really winning as a person. It just means that you have too much ego going on, right? So, what are your thoughts on that, sister?
I like all of this. We are not mind readers, nor, yeah, and you're right, nor do we want to be. I don't want to know what's going on in somebody else's head. Yeah, I knew that was coming back. I was waiting for it. But it's just words. It's interesting because I know how so many people it's like words don't matter. Well, words can hurt, words can harm, and actions back up whether whatever is said, for good or bad, is true. Because the actions, people can say anything, and there's some people who they will say anything. You don't know if they're going left or right until you see what their actions are. You see how they act, what they do, and that's what says a whole lot about a person. So I'm like, yeah, Mikey in the hat. He's got his infatuation, doesn't he? But that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, it's so funny. He's like, after you gain humility, the negative feedback doesn't affect you as much. And you're right. It doesn't, because you don't even care about that anymore. Like, who cares, right? And so, why communication is the true foundation of trust, guys. Okay, there's theory and research about there. And I'm going to tell you who they are because I have looked at it, right? Psychological bedrock. Psychological today literally identifies that trust, honesty, respect, open communication, effort, and collaboration as the pillars of healthy relationship. So if you don't like to collaborate, you shouldn't be on partnerships. You shouldn't be on relationships because it's just not going to work for you, right? Now, can you actually have the ability to gain all of this and still have trust? Of course, but it's no one can make you do anything that you'd like. And if they try to change you, they're going to fail miserably because you can't even change yourself, let alone somebody else, right? Therapeutic backing. Trust stems really from vulnerability. Imagine your conversation when someone shares to you something very personal, you have a tendency to share something very personal. You know that, right? Because if you haven't paid attention, pay attention to the next conversation. Try it, test it yourself, what I'm saying, right? Because it's all about emotional security and connection, right? Spelled it out as the ingredients that let you lower defenses and be authentic. This one time I had a friend, and this friend was having some issues, and she keeps going back and forth, and we just lost our friendship. I still love her, but I'm just staying away from her, right? And then you're like, oh yeah, me too. I did have a friend like that, CJ. Like, yeah, and then they share, right? It's that connection. You're bonding over something that's similar because our brain gravitates towards similarity more than differences. But we strive every day to be unique and different, which we are already. Which we are already. No one can be you. No one can be Susanna. No one can be CJ. It's not arrogance or, self-centeredness or narcissism. It's the truth. It's the fact. It's, you can never be me, not because of anything that I do, anything special. It's because I live a different life. My environment, my thoughts, my brains, and you don't want to be me anyway. Believe me. You don't. Okay? And open channels, like the safe ground. Without safe communications, without relationships crumbling, trust erodes when people can't share expectations or feelings. If I share my feelings to you and you yell at me, you're being emotional. You're just too sensitive. You don't get it. What do you happen? I shut down. Why the heck do I talk to you if you're not able to communicate with respect? I'm not a child. Yes, I sound like a child. Sometimes I look like a child, and sometimes I act like a child, but I'm not a child. Okay? So, uncertain reduction and predictive outcome value. This is the theory that they have. It's called URT. And this is actually, I've learned this since in my bachelor's program. Communication reduces unknown in early relationship stages, right? Laying the groundwork for predictability and comfort. What do you do when you actually meet someone new, like a new friend, right? You say, hey, what do you like? What do you like to do? What are your hobbies, right? What is your favorite color? What is your favorite food? What are your quirkiness? Like all of these things. Why do you think you ask those questions? Because you want predictive outcome. You want to know that if they get bothered by the color black, you ain't wearing black unless you want to piss them off, right? If they like Chinese food and they don't like American food, you're not going to take them to the American food if you like them, right? So that's why you're trying to build that uncertain reduction theory and predictive outcome theory, meaning, hey, we're going to predict by interacting, by getting to know. That's why when people says, I love you, you don't even know me. You know how bratty I can get? Like, what? And I also know what I want, right? Most of the time, I'm not an indecisive person. I know what I want. I know who I want. But the problem is people assume who I am. What are your thoughts on that one, sister?
I'm so tired of people assuming they know what I want. and it's quite frankly, some of that has dealt with trying to fit boxes for so long that it was hard enough trying to figure that out myself until recently. And now it's still got its struggles, but being able to just say, this is what I want, to actually be thinking about how I want to do that is so important to growth. Because you're right, you've got to be able to have those conversations up front. And the other thing is, in the case of like, they have an issue with black, but you love wearing black. What does that do? Are you going to try and fit in and not wear the black, or wear it less? Are you okay doing that? Or at some point, are you going to get tired of trying to do something for them that isn't you? If they only want Chinese food, then yeah, you take them to a Chinese restaurant, but you want more stuff. You want your Taco Bell, you want your burgers, you want Outback, you want whatever it is besides, you want more stuff. How do you make that work? Can you make that work? I'm one that seafood, it just depends on what it is, because there's some stuff I never got into. But at the same time, I'm fine going to a restaurant that serves seafood because I can usually find something. And it's like, that's what matters, is being there together and being able to have a conversation that's more than nice weather. What do you think about the winter coming up, or those who talk about sports, or those who talk about whatever? It's like, I don't want the superficial.
Yeah, we're so over that superficial. Don't yell, I want an egg roll at the pizza parlor. Get in where you fit in life and biz. Hey, if they're Filipino, guess what? They might have egg rolls in the back. Okay. I went to Hawaii with this fancy whatever layout, and I was there for days with my husband's work, and I wanted spam. I wanted Filipino, and I saw a Filipino walking around. I'm like, "Do you guys have spam?" And they're like, "Oh my god, are you Filipino?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, I'll get you some in the kitchen." And all the people that looked at me and like, "Where did you get the spam?" I'm like, "Oh, from the cook." They're like, "Do you know the cook?" I'm like, "No, but I just asked them I want some spam." And they're like, "Well, can we get spam too?" I'm like, "I don't know. Are you Filipino?" Because you will get spam if you're Filipino, But it's so crazy. And I want to do oh, there's something in my eye. I want to do a wrap up on this conversation. I can't believe we're already almost done.
You muted yourself.
Of course I did. Okay, so my end of the day, right? At the end of the day, communication isn't about winning an argument. It's actually or actually proving a point or winning an argument. It's about creating understanding, safety, and trust. I don't trust that many people in this world lately. I've only trust 3 people in my life, right now. When we shift from "you never do this" to "I feel," when we choose to listen to connect instead of just waiting to respond, and when we learn to soften conflict instead of escalating it, relationships actually stop being battlegrounds and start becoming safe havens. Another thing is it takes two to communicate nicely. So if you're willing and you're trying, but the other party isn't, it's time to create that boundaries and walk away, right? Healthy communication is the foundation that every relationship, personal, professional, restaurant, right? Without it, trust really crumbles, guys. And with it, love, respect, and collaboration thrive. And I love collaboration over competition. So here's my challenge for you guys today. The challenge is I'll leave you with this. What's one small communication shift that you can make today? Start with I statements, guys. A moment of true listening, or maybe a gentle repair that could change the tone of most of your important relationships, right? Because when you unmute with clarity and compassion, you don't just strengthen your voice, you actually strengthen your bond, right? Any last minute conversation, sister?
I love the way you wrap that up, because those are so important to start thinking about. Take the awareness of whatever you got out of this conversation and start applying it to your own life. Too often we will hear something, it makes sense, and we just let it go through the head. It goes in one ear, you kind of grasp it, and then you let it go out the other. There's sometimes some of this stuff you need to keep it inside the head. You need to make sure that even if you're not focused on it consciously all the time, that you're letting it mull around inside. Because the whole idea is, if you want to do better in this world, whether it's with your partner, finding a partner, in business, socially, wherever it is, communication is important. And one of the most important aspects of that is the listening. It's hearing what others are saying without interjecting yourself all the time. And we're in a society that too often injecting seems to be what everybody is expected to do, what they want to do, the only thing they know how to do. And the art of listening, it gets lost for a lot of people. They don't even understand it. Except it's like, oh, I listen to music. No, that's not the same. You have to listen to what somebody's saying and make sure you're responding appropriately. And if the response is keep your mouth shut, let them keep going, then do that.
That's true, because we can't stop people. But thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you. We love you. And we will see you in our podcast. I'll release a podcast this Friday, I promise. Bye, everybody. We love you. Yeah.
I started in the silence, behind closed doors. Dreams too loud to keep tucked in the floorboards. Late nights, broke days, no applause in sight. Just coffee, hustling that fire to fight. They said, play small, but I'm built to expand. No silver spoon, just grit in my hand. I will every note like armor and steel. Visibility's a battle, but I'm real and I heal. From invisible threads to the front of the stage, I'm rewriting the script, turning scars into page. Level up, rise above the fear. Let them hear your voice, make your purpose clear. Every step, every stumble, every tear in the rough. You were made for this moment, you are enough. Level up, break through the doubt. Turn the whispers of your past into a victory shout. You ain't just chasing clout, you're building a legacy. Now the world's gonna see what they couldn't believe. Yeah, yeah. What they couldn't believe. See the back end, just a headline glow. But success is built slow, where the struggle don't show. Algorithms change, but your mission's divine. You're the brand, you're the vision, you're the power behind. You gave free just to prove you have value inside. Now it's invoices paid and your name amplified. You're not just in business, you're changing the game. And your visibility, that's more than a name. No more shrinking, this is expansion. No more asking, this is commanding. You've been the spark, now you're the flame. Entrepreneur by fire, fueled by name. Level up, rise above the fear. Let them hear your voice, make your purpose clear. Every step, every stumble, every tear in the rough. You were made for this moment, you are enough. Level up, break through the doubt. Turn the whispers of your past into a victory shout. You ain't just chasing clout, you're building a legacy. Now the world's gonna see what they couldn't believe. What they couldn't believe. To the late nights, the lost friends, the risks you took, to the brand you built and the space you shook. Here's your crown, your moment, your spotlight beam. You didn't just chase the dream, you became the dream.